Action is underway from iRacing's virtual Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park as we close in on the end of feature race number 1 here on week 3 of the Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship. And it is Keenan Kusin leading in this Pro 2 Spec feature, but can he hang on? It's the 903 of Cody Wienecke trying to make the move. A three-way battle for the race lead with Drake Matag and company, Nolan. And this race going to come down to the very end. Keenan trying to shake the 903 after pole sitter Crystal King has slid back to P4. She still watches on.
It's been one heck of a race so far for this top grouping and a very clean race overall. A few drivers have dropped back. We saw Alexander Good overturn it against that turn 2 berm just earlier on in this race, but it was a single car incident. Other than that, it's been a clean sailing race, but what a night it has been thus far. Wienecke has been trying as much as he can to get up alongside Keenan Kusin, but Kusin has been showing no signs of giving off any speed in that 03 truck.
Yeah, he was able to make a good pass for the race lead after starting in second. He has led the last 6 laps consecutively, and he needs to hang on for 2 more. It's a 12-lap Spec feature. We'll invert the top 3, and then we'll dish out points again. 2 features on the board tonight in the Spec class. As these drivers next time by going to be looking at 2 laps to go. Again, it's Wienecke watching on from the second, I should say. Drake Matag in third, and then your pole sitter Crystal King, who led the opening 3 laps. She sits in the number 4 spot, but Kusin, in fact, I think opening up a bit of a gap over Wienecke these last few laps, but Cody is within striking distance, and with these Pro 2s, anybody within a couple of truck lengths is a threat. As they are inside now with 2 laps to go. Look how tight those top 4 are. P5, Cameron McGeshik watches on from about 4 seconds back.
It'll be white flag this time through. Big contact. Matag and King both going around the tail end of the shot. Along to the scene. And comes the lights of Cameron McGeshik, who will make the run for third. Meanwhile, side by side to the race lead as he takes the white flag.
Keenan Kusin was not in any of the contact, but he just didn't have a good run off of the corner, and here comes Wienecke. Big slide, but an over-rotation on the exit of the corner, and they'll go from side by side to being split up by 4 truck lengths. Was that Cody Wienecke's only opportunity? Here's the corner where Kusin struggled last time. It was the 903 who got a huge run. He's going to make up a little bit of ground this time. Maybe a trouble point for Kusin, but he is not going to get the big swing that he had last time. In final couple of turns for Keenan Kusin, who will take the checkered flag and take his second win of the Spec season, and he goes back to back. He won the second Spec feature last week at Wild West, and he gets the first Spec feature win tonight at Wild Horse. Kusin, a multi-race winner in 2023.
What a race that was, right of the line. And I have to think if Wienecke didn't over-rotate in that opening corner, absolutely would have been able to get that move done in second. They were quite literally about as far alongside as you can get at a track like Wild Horse without having to shove somebody else up and over against the wall.
You take a look at your full race results. Wienecke was there, but in the end, he slides to 0.7 of a second off. Crystal King comes home in third after that late contact, dropping Drake Matag to the number 4 spot, and Cameron McGeshik stays P5. Miles Morris, Trevor Teal, Cohen Addard, Alexander Good, and Austin McLaughlin, your top 10. Remember, we will invert those top 3, so Crystal King going to get a second crack at pole position. Wienecke will maintain, and Keenan Kusin will line up third. Everybody else will grid up for this upcoming feature in the exact same order that you see on your grid. Again, look at your full race results for the first Spec feature of the night for this Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship. I referenced that it's Keenan's second win of the season. I'm noticing a bit of a trend here, Nolan, because it was your runner-up finisher, Cody Wienecke, who won the second feature on week 1 at Bark River. He turned that into a opening race win. In week 2 at Wild West, Keenan just did the same thing. He won the last race last week and the first race tonight. So he and Wienecke, the 2 drivers who have multiple wins this season in the Spec class, and they're both going to be starting inside of the top 3, looking to be the first 3-time race winner. Remember, after tonight, only 2 features left. So this could be a major turning point in the championship, and we'll see if Keenan can make another statement.
It'll be one hard-fought race here in this second run, and that's going to then set us up, of course, for Crandon next week, a race that I am angry that I'm not going to be able to make it out to the Crandon event. That's got to be one of my favorite off-road tracks on the iRacing service, but hey, Wild Horse has easily punched its ticket up into being a close second for me with the close-fought race that we saw in your opening Spec race here tonight, and now we'll get to see what the full 12 laps race would actually look like for race number 2.
This is a short track, and I think it often just by namesake gets confused for the likes of Wild West, where we were last week, but Wild Horse, the host of tonight's race, of course, located in Chandler, Arizona. It's only a 0.6 of a mile track, 5 turns, very small stadium-style track. It does share some similar characteristics, Nolan, I would say, to what we saw in Sparks last week. You got those almost tight hairpin-esque turns everywhere. The straights aren't that long, but one thing that you don't have here that we saw last week was those major elevation changes. This one is a little bit more difficult for these drivers to fight through the corners because you don't get those big hills to build up speed. It's a really physical racetrack, and we did see that before we came on the air in the start of Spec race number 1, and I think we'll get a good taste of that as the checkered flag flies on the warm-up session, and we're about ready to go for Spec race 2.
I think it also does kind of show, though, why Wild Horse does actually work a little bit more. And I think the fact that there isn't a lot of elevation change actually makes it better for racing because it means it's a lot more of a momentum-based racetrack, less point and shoot, which allows for drivers to get up alongside race each other a little bit easier. We saw, I think, more side-by-side racing in that first race alone than we did throughout the entirety of both Spec races just 1 week ago at Wild West.
We take a look at your Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship starting grid, and again, the top 3 invert puts Crystal King on pole for the second time tonight. Cody Winecki maintains P2, and your Race 1 winner, Keenan Kusin, lines up in the 03 in P3. Drake Matag will start 4th with Cameron McGeshik 5th, and Miles Morse rounding out the top 6.
Going to be down in that 7th position for the likes of Trevor Teal. Trevor Teal down in 7th with Cohen Atar down in 8th. Alexander Good rolled into the first heat race. Will start 9th with Austin McLaughlin down to that 10th position.
So the field pace is 2 by 2, 10 cars strong after this feature. Don't go away because we've got more Off-Road Pro 2 Championship racing coming your way. The Open class coming up for 2 features. That is next here on Racecraft. One thing we have yet to see in all classes so far this season is a sweep. No driver has been able to win both features in a single class on any given week, and that is what Keenan Kusin is going to attempt to do for the inside of row 2 in 3rd. Crystal King looks for her first race win of the season. Winecki in search of his 3rd. They're on the front row. Green flag in the air in feature race 2.
Oh, and already way up and on to the berm goes Cody Winecki, going to lose down to that 3rd position, single file, and the run back up the hill for turn number 2. Crystal King currently hanging on for the race lead.
Side by side, 3-wide racing back in the battle for P6, but it is King up front with the advantage. Drake Matag, the big winner. He'll go +2 spots. He takes over 4th as Winecki and Kusin fight for 3rd and 4th behind. Here comes Matag to the inside in 2nd. Not able to make it stick. Remember, King was able to lead the opening 3 laps of that first feature. She leads the end of lap number 1, but she's got a lot of competition right behind her.
Bit of trouble down in the background. Miles Morris got punted around and went up and over a turn by Cohen Atard. Rolled about 4 or 5 times before getting settled back on all 4s while the fight for the race lead continues on. Crystal King trying to maintain that run up in the race lead. Finished down in 3rd. That, of course, landed her that top 3 invert all the way up to start on pole. So that's 2 poles now tonight. Now King's just got to see if she can't get at least 1 race win before the end of the night.
That's the objective, as she wants to stay in this championship conversation past the halfway point and down to crunch time with a lot of big championship points on the line. But with Keenan Kusin falling down to P4, it seems unlikely And we'll get our first sweep of the season. Wienecki in third. He watches on as the battle between Matag and King continues. Matag won the very first race of the season back on May the 3rd at Barker River. He has yet to return to victory lane since then. He is trying to upset the likes of Wienecki and Kusin, but first he's got to deal with Crystal King, who seems to have settled into the race lead as she leads at the end of lap number 3. This is where that pass happened in the first feature. Let's see if Drake Matag can be the one to spoil the party.
Matag landing about 3 feet behind the 278 of Crystal King. Gets almost to the back bumper, exiting that opening corner. The second corner through the hairpin at turn number 3. The infield corner, as I'm going to dub it here over the course of the night, because it is the only turn that is not fully on the outside of the racetrack. There's the move to the inside. Goes Drake Matag, making the look for the race lead side by side down the start-finish stretch.
And this is going to set up good for Matag because he's going to have inside positioning for turn number 1, and it's going to force Crystal King around the outside. But look at that move. Carries the speed on the berm, and they'll go from nose to nose to Crystal King, a 4-truck length advantage as they race off of turn number 2. So a great response for the driver of the 278 truck, and in fact she gains a bit of ground. Here's a tricky turn. As you come through 3, you really got to swing wide immediately to set yourself up for this wide sweeping turn 4. Matag stays close. They're both putting ground on Wienecki, who's falling back in P3.
It won't be long now, but I think before Matag starts to make that look again, and I think it's all going to come around down in that 4th and final turn on the race course as we hightail it down through turn number 2 and set ourselves up for the solo right out of the course, but over rotates through the jump, and that's going to compromise the entry to turn 3, and all of a sudden losing time back to Crystal King as we enter 4.
Headed off to turn number 4. Crystal King continues to play defense. There's not a ton happening elsewhere. You can see most of the field spread out. Some of that courtesy of some early contact. Miles Morse has had issues, so has McLaughlin, so has Good. Everybody else in the top 7, about 10 seconds spaced apart. This is some of the best action on the racetrack in the battle for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Kusin closes in a little bit. Last lap, he was the 2nd fastest truck on track, but he's still in P4. And the biggest challenge is he's about 1.8 seconds behind. That's a lot of gap to make up with only 5 laps to go.
And Matag only losing more ground up to Crystal King, and it's looking like this is going to be the King show here in race number 2, as Cody Wienecki mentioned, just trying to run down that 3rd position. At the moment, though, the top 3 still the closest trio up on the racetrack. So we'll work our way back around through turn 2 and set ourselves up for that downhill jump underneath the Lucas Oil Rockstar Energy signage, and down to turn number 3 before we swing back to the right side of the racetrack. Set ourselves up for the 4th and final corner. And at the moment, it'll be 4 laps to go. Matag has not been closing in nearly enough to get around Crystal King for that race win.
In fact, King has been better the last couple laps consecutively. The last lap, her 37.220 lap split was the fastest on the racetrack. Drake Matag had a punch back with a 37.114 to keep it equal, but Crystal King's pace has picked up in the last several laps as now we're inside of 4 laps to go. Again, if anything happens with your race leaders and if Matag is close enough, he is likely to try something. Cody Wienecki is there in 3rd, ready to pick up the pieces should we see some fireworks in a battle for the race lead. 3 laps to go. It's been Crystal King all the way.
3 to go. Up onto the berm is Matag, trying to see if he can carry a bit more speed, and already set himself to rotate that truck while they're still in the air so he can slam down and immediately jam the brakes for the 2nd corner. Closing up still. Last lap by was just over a 10th quicker than Crystal King, so the gap is starting to close with 2 to go. Still has a chance to get it done. Up to the top shelf going to be Austin McLaughlin. We'll go a lap down. He'll list the top 3 through.
It was a good piece of driving there for McLaughlin for yielding high, staying out of the way. and not playing a factor in this battle for the race lead. Crystal King, again, did so good to start the night, had the pole position in the first feature of the night, however, then lost it on lap number 4. Trying to continue to hold off, and she likes what's happening behind because Cody Wienecke and Drake Matag fighting with each other. Thought that might slow him down, but Wienecke falls back, and how about Drake Matag? He takes second and then swiftly goes for the race lead. He'll be on the outside. He's going to have a big coming to the white flag, and it's new race leader Drake Matag.
Don't look now. Crystal King still in the background trying to make something happen around through turns 1 and 2, but again, the berm on the outside, the place to be. Drake Matag able to rip it around the top shelf, and he clears down for turn 2, despite King's attempts to throw it in.
Drake Matag looking for his second win of the season, seemingly just waited in third until the time was right and made a great move. Final set of corners. Crystal King goes too wide. Here comes the inside for Cody Wienecke, but up front, it is Drake Matag who leads the final 2 laps of this race, and it is a race win for Drake Matag. What a finish.
Holy cow, what a run. Once again, a barn burner of a race to wrap out the Spec class in their second to last event. We'll see what these guys will have for us as we'll get set to roll on out to Crandon in 1 week's time to close out the Spec Championship. But wow, what a night. And I don't think you can get much better at Wild Horse.
That one went all the way down to the end. And again, it had seemed like that Crystal King had settled in and figured this one out, but it's that late surprise move that makes the difference. Let's go take a look at your full race results for this one. It is Matag who gets the checkered flag, Wienecke with his second P2 of the afternoon, and Crystal King with her second P3. They are your top 3 finishers in the second Spec feature for week 3. Keaton Kusid, a surprisingly disappointing 4th after winning the opener, but ahead of Trevor Teal in P5.
6th place going to be Cohen Tatar with Cameron Begeshuk down in that 7th position. Alexander Good was the last driver of the lead lap in 8th. McLaughlin went 1 down in 9th, and Miles Morris took one hefty tumble and ends up 10th place, not finishing this race, finishes this one 6 down.
So look at the bottom of your full race results for this one. It was not a new win into the back pocket for Cody Wienecke. He goes winless in the last 3 after winning 2 of the first 3 features of the season, Nolan, but it is a consistent and good points night for Cody Wienecke in the 903. Second place in feature race number 1, second place in feature race number 3. And let's see if you can get a word with the driver of the 903.
And of course, Cody Wienecke joins us up here now. It is runner-up in both races tonight, but boy, it was by the slimmest of margins, Cody, and especially in that second race, you only made that pass on Crystal King into the last corner on the last lap.
Oh yeah, it was just a blast running up with these guys on this track. It's very tight, and I just held it back a little bit, let Crystal and Drake figure their things out, and I was able to get by Crystal at the end of the race.
So kind of walk us through Wild Horse. Obviously, it can be drawn with some comparisons to the Wild West Motorsports Park, slightly similar in shape of the track, albeit the start-finish line at a different space, but obviously much smaller, arguably much tighter, and the lap time's almost half what we get at Wild West. Kind of walk us through which track would rank higher on your list right now.
I'd probably say this track. I'm happy with my results. Like, this track is very tight and confusing. If you oversteer, gas it too much, you're going to spin out. So you just have to be very patient and wait for mistakes to happen.
And of course, we get set to go racing at Crandon one final time next week. You reckon you have what it takes to see if you can't snag the title?
I'm looking forward to it. Gonna try. I got my baby's due tomorrow, and she's in a lot of pain, so we'll see if we can make it or not.
Well, I'm going to get off my congratulations right now. I wish you all the best as well in both the race next week and, of course, with no doubt what should be a very entertaining day for you tomorrow. So we'll let you get back to it. Congratulations on the second place.
Thank you.
Cody Winecki joined us up here in the broadcast booth. That'll move us up to race winner in Moto numbers 1 and 2. It is Drake Matag to join us up here with Evan Pasoka.
Drake, we're down with your race winner from the second of the Spec features tonight. It is Drake Matag. Jake, congrats on the win. It's your first time at Victory Lane since that very first race a couple of weeks ago at Bark River, but you've matched Winecki and Kusin's mark with 2 wins on the season. How'd that one happen for you?
That was definitely chaotic. You know, this track is no joke to get out into Pro 2. It's definitely not easy. It was a good to a rough first race, with that first one ending not too hot, with Cody having an incident and then collecting me and Crystal, but was able to come back up to 4th. And then the second one started off pretty good. Got up front, kind of stuck there, put down some good laps, and then Cody was coming in hot, so I had to make the move. You know, I was sitting there in second, and Cody was charging hard, so I had to try and get by and get away as quick as possible, and it worked.
It looked like that big burst of speed late in the laps there as Crystal was leading came out of nowhere. Was that the case, or were you saving something, or did she open a door that you had to take advantage of?
I think she opened a door. It's so hard to be consistent on this track. You know, there's no way to. I mean, obviously it's possible. Like towards the end, I was able to stay consistent. So was Cody, but it's so hard to be consistent on this track. Like, you have to hit your marks perfectly every single lap, every single corner. Otherwise, you're almost 3/10, 4/10 slower than everybody else.
Well, I just mentioned it. We now have 3 different 2-time winners this season with you, Keenan, and Cody Winecki. So where can you differentiate yourself and try to come home with the championship when we wrap this thing up next week at Crandon?
I think the consistency game has definitely got to be over now. It should have been over at the start of this weekend, but you know, we'll see. We'll see where I stack up after this one and how hard I have to push coming into Crandon. Definitely going to give it my all, and should be fun.
We'll let you get out of here and celebrate. Anybody want to say hi to while we have you?
Everybody at K-Line Motorsports, we're all putting in laps, putting in time, and it's definitely paying off here, and everybody that helps me, thank you.
We appreciate the time, Jake. Again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you, guys.
It's a race winner for the second feature tonight. Drake Matag takes it home, and we'll round things out on the podium. It's another consistent night for Crystal King and Olin, a third, but I'm sure she was thinking about what it would have been like to get that first win of the season. You're with her.
Well, Crystal, it was the race lead for so long in that second race, and then, of course, Drake Matag getting the one up on you with 2 laps to go in that second race. Kind of walk us through what it was like to have to battle with guys like that all night long.
Well, it's, for lack of a better word, scary. This track is very finicky. Like, one wrong thing can send you in a direction that you don't want to go. So it was really just about having clean lines, and I was clearly not able to do that. I started on the pole both races and lost it both races. I was pretty surprised that I was able to hold on to it for so long that second race, but it sucks to lose it with 1 to go for sure.
Kind of walk us through then how the rest of this championship is going to shake on up for you. We got 1 race left. It's at Crandon, arguably one of the most iconic in off-road truck racing. Kind of tell us what it's going to be like then, to see if you can't battle with the best, to see if you can't go after that title.
It's going to be kind of the luck of a draw on that one. With you got the land rush, and really no matter where you start, anything can happen there. So I think if we can get off the land rush all right and try to stay consistent with my lines, that's been my biggest thing. I'm still trying to learn these trucks, and I just can't keep a line consistent lap to lap. So I'm just going to have to work on that.
Well, wish you the best of luck then. We'll let you get back to celebrating. Congratulations on the 3rd place. We'll wish you the best of luck in our season finale. Thank
you. I want to shout out Factory Sim Sport, Legion, and Shenandoah Shine, and you guys. Thanks.
That's Crystal King, the driver that finished up 3rd place in both of our motos here tonight. And Evan, that sets us up now for your Open Championship.
It does. And a big thanks to Matag, Winecki, and King for giving us a little bit of time post-race. And you're right, it is time to move on to the open side, where a lot of those heavy hitters from years past are going at it again for the championship. Again, two 12-lap features on deck. And we talk about a lot of familiar faces, the repeat winners in the Spec category. We're seeing a lot of that over here in the open category. 2 wins so far this season for Swain, and then a win apiece for both Edmondson and Barry. They will do battle now. Let's go trackside. Take a look at your Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship starting grid, and Josh Edmondson has got himself on the #1 spot for this one. Keaton Swain alongside P2. Connor Barry right there in 3rd. Those are your 3 race winners this season. Christopher Plumley going to be the driver attempting to spoil the party. He'll start in 4th ahead of the duo of Tyson Miller and Zachary Drapkin on row 3.
Row number 4, going to hold the likes of Timothy Massamer. It's going to be Sean Winkler down in that 8th position. 9th going to be Taylor Vandenbush. Daniel H down in 10th. Anthony James and Greg Johnson going to be down in 12th.
And then a couple more cars on the backside. Mike Budzian, Nick Nowak, Paul Mikolajic, and Terry Miller. Going to be a look top to bottom. It is a big 16 truck field, Nolan. Almost double what we saw in the Spec class. And I wonder if all of those extra trucks is going to make this one that much more chaotic, because we did see a flip there in the second of the Spec features, but it was back in traffic. There was drama up front, but all in all, a clean race. Curious as we go into the open category where these drivers have more tools to play with on these trucks. Does that mean that we'll get a more spread out field, or is that car count going to mean that the craziness is going to be ramped up?
I have a feeling this is one of those tracks. It's going to come down to the car count, giving us some extra action here tonight. It's one of those tracks where it's one of those series where you'd think that the truck count wouldn't matter so much. When on a track this small, where you're lapping at about 37 seconds, you know it's going to have a really big impact.
Didn't have a ton of time to talk about this Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park, but it's part of one of the most diverse racing venues in the country. And I talked about this stadium-style course built back in 2008. It is a very small, 0.6 miles long. It's a 5-turn layout. Features quite a good mix of sweeping corners, high-flying jumps, and some full-throttle straightaways. But again, I think a more compact version of the racetrack that we experienced just a week ago in the Wild West Motorsports Park in Sparks, Nevada. And the clock ticking down, and again, you can just see the size of this field just waiting on Josh Edmondson on the front row. And then these guys are going to get set to go for 12 laps. Again, lap times in the mid to high 30-second range means you're talking about, what, a 6-minute race? I mean, not a lot of time to make up for mistakes. And of course, that top 3 invert going to have a big factor on what happens when we go racing for the second of these open features.
Terry Miller, we're also waiting on the driver at the 940 to see if he'll be gridding on up, but was a good 0.3 of a second though off of Paul Mikolajic down at the tail end of the field. So I'm not sure if Miller's going to actually be making it to the starting call, but Edmonton has gridded on up. So we got 15 of the 16 gridded up so far. That's not a bad number. I'll take that percentage, but I think you're right. I mean, this is going to be such a critical race when it comes down to track positioning, and I think this invert, just like we saw at the Wild West Motorsports Park, could very well dictate how that second moto pans out.
And here we go. Josh Edmondson trying to get his second win of the season. Keaton Swain looking for a third. The 21 has been the most successful of those big 3, if you will, of Edmondson, Swain, and Barry. They are the only drivers to have won races so far this season. Can we see a Plumley, a Miller, a Drapkin get that little bit extra that they've been lacking so far and challenge the big 3? Or are we going to see another big swing in the championship, because every single feature win is so important, and it can again swing in any direction, as we have 4 features left to go this season, 2 of them coming up right here for the virtual Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. We're happy that you're with us for this 3rd week of the 2023 Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship. The open class is ready to go from Chandler, Arizona. Green flag in the air. Edmondson fights off the initial storm. The battle behind for second. Swain and Barry, they touch.
Banging doors again as we rocket down over the turn 2, jumping down the hill, down to 3. And through the downhill section, it is Edmonton pulling away across the whoops between 3 and 4. We've got a bit of a pile up in the back as Anthony James got spun round, caused a big chunk of the field to have to scramble and go evasive. But other than that, we are going to be smooth sailing up at the front of this field. A couple of drivers slamming doors with 3rd and 4th. That was Keaton Swain and Christopher Plumley getting a bit tight together through that opening corner once again.
And it's big that Plumley has been able to drive himself through to 3rd. Swain losing out, drops to 4th, but for how long? They are side by side. The 36 truck, the purple truck with a slide job there, is the entry for Plumley. Swain tries to cross back to the inside. Got a bit sealed off, though, as Zach Drapkin was sticking a nose in from behind, trying to challenge for the 5th spot. Plumley going to use that berm to rip it around the outside to the end of lap number 2. He'll maintain 3rd. Keaton Swain struggling right now. He's seeing his championship contenders in Edmondson and Barry getting further and further away.
Swain down to the inside, secures, maybe not quite. Plumley pulling the outside around turn number 2, slams down to earth as we enter turn 3. Swain trying to go for the crossover, back through 3 and up to 4. Diving it back down to the inside lane as Plumley sweeps a bit too wide. Swain trying to get to the back bumper, no room. Open start finish jump, it is still Plumley to maintain that run up in 3rd.
Doing everything he can to stay in this conversation, all the way leaning on the outside wall that time. But the 58 up front, Josh Edmondson not only enjoying the race lead, but running away with it. It is a full second between Josh Edmondson, whose lone win comes in the second feature of week 1 back into Parker River. He's more than a second ahead of Barry and extending. So he is checking on out Barry in no man's land in P2. Good enough to be ahead of the battle for 3rd on back, but these top 2 have really put a lot of distance on this mess.
You saw Keaton Swain on the timing tower drop several positions. Plumley got up the inside of the final corner, and that caused one Keaton Swain to lose out on spots of Zachary Drapkin, as well as Tyson Miller as well. And the reason why he got alongside was because Plumley got a bit over anxious and ended up sliding himself out. And meanwhile, now, not seeing our friend Swain anywhere at the racetrack. He's up at the top of the hill at turn 2, so Swain's had a big off up at the second corner, and I think he collided with Tyson Miller, and that's going to cause him to drop all the way down to the tail end of the field. He's effectively now out of the chance for a win tonight.
And he had already fallen down to P6 before that contact was made, but Swain now in 15th position. And there was contact. Let's take a look with Keaton Swain and see what happened here. He was back in traffic in the number 6 spot, had been struggling. There's a touch there, and then he gets hung up a bit on the K-rail, and it's just going to take him so long here, Nolan, with these other trucks coming to back that truck up. He's got to go all the way around to rejoin the racing surface. And for Keaton Swain to be the only driver to have a win every week this season, that right there may be what costs Keaton Swain the championship.
And all the while, the battles continue. Tyson Miller, despite that con, has been undeterred. He's been battling with Zachary Drapkin as Drapkin takes that spot away to the inside for the 4th position. And Tyson Miller in the Terminator, trying to see if he can't chase him down the hill into turn number 3. But Drapkin continuing to hang on. Ended the second half of the race, hitting doors again. The red line oil machine swinging up and wide with a bit of a slide job. Miller to the inside, makes the run down for turn number 1.
Side by side they go, off and into the corner. They'll go right next to each other through the turn. Advantage to the outside for Zach Drapkin. So Tyson Miller unable to make the pass. He stays in 5th. P6, Sean Winkler watches on. Again, up front, well spread out. This trio, some of the best stuff on track as we are past the halfway point in feature race number 1.
Tyson Miller continuing to make himself with the run. Zachary Drapkin still hanging on to that 4th position for now, but Miller looking to apply that pressure Yeah, Tyson Miller going to keep himself rolling here and not give up too easily on that fight for that 4th position, as now he's got Sean Winkler looking to pressure for a top 5.
As Sean Winkler started back in 8th. Behind them, Danny Ace started 10th. Those are both a couple of drivers who have made up spots from the start of this race, but I think Winkler certainly has the most potential as you go on board with Taylor Vandenbush in that second trio. Vandenbush chasing Johnson, chasing the aforementioned Danny Ace. It's 10th, 12th, and 9th for where they started. 7, 8, 9 on the racetrack right now. So Ace and Johnson have had a good night and want to get a little bit extra, but Ace doing a good job of making sure he can't get caught here. He opens up quite an advantage.
That advantage going to continue to grow more and more as these last 2 laps tick away. Miller maintained that run in that 5th position, still losing time. Back up to Zachary Drapkin. We take the 2 to go signal, and it looks like Sean Winkler's chances at a top 5 are starting to slip away from him as well.
And running out of time slowly but surely as race leader is going to be looking for the white flag momentarily. Josh Edmondson has led the distance so far. I'm not going to say don't look now. Connor Berry has closed the gap a little bit. You can see him watching on from second, but it still seems like he's going to be a little bit too far back with 1 lap to go.
1 lap remaining. Connor Berry going to try to get up and close with Josh Edmondson, but Edmondson stretching out the gap once again. It was a 10th quicker last time by for Berry, but that's too little, too late, as Josh Edmondson flies over the turn 2 jump for the second to final time, or at least for the final time of 2 races here tonight.
He's going to have another opportunity to do it again later on, but Josh Edmondson, somebody who expects and wins races every single season, but still looking for that championship, is going to come through the final turn, and Josh Edmondson's a repeat winner in 2023. He wins the first open feature of the night here at Wild Horse Pass.
What a great drive that Josh Edmondson had, and now he gets to do it all over again. 1 more race to go for a closeouter performance here tonight from the Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. 1 truck flipping down across the start finish line jump. That was Anthony Janes, who will come home to finish 11th, but meanwhile, it's Edmondson to take that win.
He does take the win. The final margin of victory does creep under 1 second. Connor Berry maybe need an extra 5 laps or so, but he doesn't get it, so he'll finish in second. And Christopher Plumley breaking through on the podium. Zach Drapkin comes home 4th, and Tyson Miller in P5.
6th place going to be the likes of Sean Winkler with Daniel Asian 7th. Taylor Vandenbush 8th. Paul Michaelichuk was 9th, with Mike Budson rounding out the top 10.
And here's the big story. You've got James, you've got Meesemer, but Keaton Swain with a P13 finish. The driver who had seemingly been the favorite coming into tonight, winning at both Bark River and Wild West. Nolan, the way that the points and the way that the schedule is structured in this Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship, you cannot expect to beat drivers like Edmondson and Berry if you're going to put a 13 on the board. And again, we may have just seen Keaton Swain lose this championship in the blink of an eye. Nothing's written in stone. You still run the races. Anything could happen to Josh Edmondson and Connor Berry, but they finished top 3. They're going to be starting top 3 for this second feature. This could be a huge night for Keaton Swain that sees him tumble completely out of that battle.
All of that brings us to our final race of the night, and I have to say, out of our 2 more stadium style ish tracks as opposed to the more outdoor, almost motocross ish tracks, I'm gonna catch some flack for that one, I can already tell you that right now, but out of the more stadium style circuits, I think Wild Horse Pass definitely is among my favorite. And I have to say, I think I'm starting to see just a little bit more about why the race at this track tends to be favored a little bit more than perhaps what you might get at Wild West, even though Wild West is the bigger of the 2.
It is indeed, and neither of these racetracks close to similar, with the opener and the finale on the calendar, and Bark River and of course Crandon which for those of you tuning in, you are not going to want to miss that, because we'll crown both the Spec class and the Open class champions next Wednesday, May the 24th, right back here on Racecraft TV. But now these drivers pick up the pieces and reset. And again, I will throw the gauntlet in the direction of Josh Edmondson. Nolan, we'll take a look at the full starting grid in just a moment as they wrap up the warm-up session. But for all of the big names who have won this season, nobody has swept a night in either category. So, do we write Josh Edmondson off from third, or is he finally going to be the person to do it?
Well, there's only one way to find out. That's to get this show on the road. But so far, it's been looking really good tonight for the drivers that start in third to go up and take themselves a race win.
Yeah, of course, in that first race, Edmondson able to win from pole, but Barry third to second, Plumley 4 to 3, Drapkin 6 to 4th. So across the board, there were a handful of drivers who were able to gain position and improve, of course, en route to some good finishes. Now we will see if this one can be any different. We're headed trackside to take a look at your Racecraft starting grid. And again, the invert will put P3 finisher Chris Plumley on pole position in the 36 truck. Barry stays put P2, and your first feature race winner in Josh Edmondson will line up in third. Zach Drapkin will start fourth for this one. It'll be Tyson Miller and Sean Winkler on row number 3.
Daniel H will bring it up in 7th place with Taylor Vandenbush in 8th. Paul Mikolajczyk going to be down to that 9th position with Mike Budsey in to round out the top 10. It is Anthony Chains and Timothy Masamer going to be down on that 12th position.
And a final page, lucky number 13 in this second feature of the night, will cycle through to none other than Keaton Swain. A lot of work for him to do. Nick Nowak at 14th, Greg Johnson at 15th, and Terry Miller in the number 16 spot. It's a look top to bottom again. The midfield, the back of the field, that's where we expect the chaos to come from. But if he can stay out of it, I would also expect you got to be looking for Keaton Swain to try to fight his way through the field. Probably pretty unlikely that he goes into the top 3, gets a podium out of this one. But if he can get a top 5, I think that's pushing it. But if he can get a top 5, at least I think it helps him out in the damage limitation department, because he is really hoping that he can try to stay in this championship after the awful result that he had in the first feature. The pace truck pulls off and away. It's the final race of the afternoon from Chandler, Arizona. Green flag in the air for the open class.
And already tracking up towards the berm on the right side, going to be Christopher Plumley trying to secure that race lead. Does so out of the opening corner. One truck going around deeper in the field, going to get it saved. That was Daniel H, dropping from 7th place down to 15th. We're going to bottleneck him up big time, though, at the top of turn 2.
It's starting to really check him up, and you can see how that accordion effect stacks him up. A couple of trucks up onto the K-rail, but again, we're not slowing down, and up and over on the inside. It goes one truck at the rear of the field. Was that Vandenbush?
There was a couple of trucks that went up and over. Nick Nowak went over in turn 2, got himself sorted. There was Vandenbush, though, that went up and over. That was coming on down the hill through turn 2s and 3s. He ramped off one of the K-rails and then barrel rolled down to the infield.
Tough break there. We race on, though, and after all of that, Plumley maintains the race lead. Connor Berry second, Josh Edmondson third, so no changes on the front row. Plumley certainly had pretty good speed in that last feature, but is it enough speed to prevent Connor Berry from another race win? Here goes Beer to the inside, but it should be Plumley using the speed up top to defend, and he does. But Connor Berry showing early he is going to take every chance he can. 10 laps to go.
Tyson Miller biked it up over one of the whoops. He will find himself up on his side and stranded in turn 4. Resets back to the pit, so Miller becomes our first retirement in this second and final race in your open class here tonight. Plumley maintains the race lead, and Josh Edmondson starting to drop back.
And Josh Edmondson sliding backwards here as he falls out of the battle for the race lead. Still not under fire from Drapkin in 4th, but Edmondson can only watch on as Barry again tries the bottom in turn number 5. Second lap in a row, though, he's unable to do so, and I think Plumley doing exactly what he needs to do Plumlee doesn't need to try to take a defensive line or block. He just needs to take the fastest line away from Connor Berry. Use the berms and use the ruts and the speed and the positioning to just run your race and make Connor Berry go somewhere else to make the move on you. And after Edmondson fell back, he's all of a sudden in the conversation again. He'll go the long way around, and maybe now this becomes a battle for second as Plumlee pulls away.
Connor Berry slid up across the nose of Josh Evanson. Evanson then had to dive it back down low, but that did check him up a bit. So through turn one, will stay behind the CBR number 2. Connor Berry continuing to make his run up at the front of this field, and Christopher Plumlee slamming back down the hill and in towards turn number 3. Connor Berry maintaining his good momentum run for second, and so far remaining unchanged throughout the top 5.
A little bit of traffic up the road. Soon they will approach Tyson Miller. How will the race leaders navigate the traffic as Plumlee is loving what he's seeing behind him, because the more that Berry and Edmondson fight with each other, the more they will distract themselves from being able to fight against him in that battle for the race lead. A couple other drivers who have had a good start. Mike Budzian started 10th. He's P6. Danny Aish holding strong. Keaton Swain started 13th. They talked about him. He's up to position number 8. So a couple of drivers making some headway through the field, but first, second, third unchanged as Drapkin watches on at this top 3 battle.
The top 3 still remained unchanged across the start-finish line as we start the second half of your final race here tonight. It is still Plumlee from Berry, from Edmondson, way to the inside. Thought for a moment Berry was going to wipe out your race leader, the number 36, as we'll once again work down the hill and in towards turn number 3. Connor Berry trying to keep close to the back end, but I think Plumlee is going to be able to continue to maintain this run unless Berry can really pull something out of the hat and try something desperate here.
Yeah, whatever he needs to do to be able to get around Plumlee, he hasn't found it yet. Now, all he needs to do is stick with Plumlee and maybe wait for the 36 to make a mistake, right? We heard this talking with your top finishers from the Spec class that this is a very difficult racetrack to be consistent at. So the easy way for Connor Berry to make the pass is to find extra speed, right? But Christopher Plumlee, for the moment, hasn't put a foot wrong, but can he be perfect for all 12 laps? If I'm Berry, I don't overthink this. I put pressure on him, put him in an uncomfortable position, and see if he slips up right there. It was an aggressive dive to the bottom, but Plumlee's not sweating on that. Plumlee's running the exact line he wants to.
It very much is. Christopher Plumlee has not had to worry so much about Connor Berry. You might have to start worried about him here, though, in a minute, as, again, it was almost 0.2 of a second quicker that last time by for Berry to get to Plumlee. But if this series has taught us anything, it is the definition of catching is one thing, passing is another. To the inside of turn 3 goes Connor Berry. Can he get to the bumper this time, or maybe with the door? Side by side over the whoops, up towards the 4th and final corner. But Berry unsettles the truck. He'll have to cut to the inside and make something happen around that final turn.
Slices back down to the inside. The 36 continues to hold him off now with 3 laps to go at Wild Horse Pass. Chris Plumlee looking for his first win of the season. Berry trying to extend a championship advantage in search of his second. Nothing from Josh Edmondson, who won the first feature. He wants to be the first sweep of the season. He watches on from 3rd, but also can't solve the riddle. That is Plumlee. Here comes Berry to the inside. He'll pull alongside, but he doesn't get into the door. We're not there yet, and because he doesn't hit him to slow him down, Plumlee keeps all that speed and pulls clear again.
Thought moment he might get there. He absolutely sent it over the berm down in turn 4. We work our way back on the hill for 2 already. Trying to rotate the truck all the way in. Is he going to get there this time around? I think maybe the smallest of rubs, but not enough to upset Plumlee or the balance in that number 36 machine. Does he get a bit wide here, though, in the 3rd quarter? And Connor Berry still's got nothing for him. Into turn 4. Here we go. To the inside. Up and over the berm. Berry with the slide job out of the final corner.
And it was a mistake from Christopher Plumley, and Connor Berry took his line away. He forced Plumley to the inside out of turn 4, and all race long, Christopher Plumley was using the outside out of 4 to get that big run through turn 5. So Berry took that line away and made the pass with ease. Now, what does Plumley do in response? 2 corners left to decide this race. He's not going to be able to get there, though. Edmondson makes contact, which loosens Plumley up just enough to give Connor Berry the distance he needs. And Connor Berry is a 2-time winner this season. He wins at Wild Horse.
What a drive. Connor Berry leaned on him over and over, lap after lap, never moved him up and out of the way himself, and soon enough, that pressure got to Christopher Plumley, and that gives the win to Connor Berry.
Every single race winner tonight in both the Spec and the Open class with their second wins of the season. It is very clear on this second to last week of this Off-Road Pro 2 Championship that the favorites came to play. Let's take a look at your full race results to get into the second win of the season for Connor Berry. And Christopher Plumley tried his best to spoil the party. He went on to lead 10 of the 12 laps, settling for second. Josh Edmondson was not able to be the first sweep of the night, so we're 0 for 6 on the year, but he does back up a win in feature race number 1 with a podium here. We'll try to talk with those 3 drivers in just a moment. They all finished ahead as Zap Drapin in P4 and Sean Winkler in 5th.
6th place going to be the likes of Keaton Swain with Mike Budsey, and in 7th, Paul Mikolajczyk will finish this race on a quiet 8th place. Daniel and Taylor Vandenbush will round out the top 10.
And the final set of results here tonight, as it'll be Timothy Miesemer in 11th, Greg Johnson 12th, Nick Nowak 13th, Anthony James in 14th, Tyson Miller 15th, and Terry Miller in P16. To look at the bottom at your full race results, it looks like our top finishers are standing by. So let's start at the top. Connor Berry is now a 2-time race winner this season as he looks to get yet another championship after having won a Pro 4 title back in 2021. He's your winner tonight in the second feature for the Open class. Connor, congratulations on the win. A P2 and a P1 sounds like a pretty good night at the office.
Oh yeah, our speed was good. We got to qualify in first, and then we got sent in the third. And then the first main, I got into Swain in turn 4 on the first lap, so I want to apologize to him. I did not mean to, so yeah. And then I set in P2 I set in P2, and then I got the start in P2 again for the second one. And then I had the faster truck. It was just hard to pass. And then I stayed on Plum, and he finally cracked it, and I got under him in turn 4 going on to the final lap, and we got 2 wins. So I think we should be pretty good in points. I think we should be in first going into the final one, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, we'll do the math on it, right? The story, and I think we talked about this with you last week, was you and Keaton and Josh being, so close with one another. How can you separate yourself? Well, it's a tough result in the first feature for Keaton, which means that you may only have to be worrying about Josh Edmondson as we head to Crandon. If you're in the points lead, if Edmondson is right there with you, this is all going to be decided next week at Crandon. So is that a racetrack that you feel confident at to lock this thing up at?
Yeah, I feel pretty good there. I think it's just going to be about that start. I think our speed is actually good. I definitely think our speed can put us in first on the time charts, but it's going to be just important to get that start. But I think I can get a good start, and if I can just be around like third around the first one, say, then I can start in first for the second, or that's if the invert is A3 again. But as long as I'm inside the invert for the second one, I think that we'll be in a shot to win it. I think it's going to be about being consistent and not about the win. I think it's just going to be about just making sure I am a spot behind Josh, or if I can be in front of him, then that will be good also. And so it looks like we have a 6-point lead. So that's going to be doable as long as I'm smart and smooth.
6-point lead means that you're the man to beat next week, Connor. We'll let you get out of here before we do those sponsors and shout outs, all those folks who makes that happen for you.
For sure. A big thanks to CBR, General Tire, IMB Simware, Nitro Circus, and all of you guys for this stream.
We appreciate being able to watch you put it down on the racetrack, Connor. We also appreciate the time here chatting with us. Again, congratulations on the win and good luck next week. Hope for your sake we're talking with you when it's all said and done.
Thank you.
He is your race winner tonight in the second feature of the night. Connor Berry goes P2 and P1. Another good night at the office for the points leader. Christopher Plumley wanted to be spoiler tonight. He got a podium in the first of the open features and almost took this one home. Nolan, your trackside with him.
Oh my gosh, what a night. And Christopher, you led all but the last 2 laps. Why don't you talk us through what happened on that 11th lap there coming to the white flag?
I just ran out of talent, honestly. Caught the whoops wrong, started tank slapping, and there he went. It was a real heartbreaker.
Obviously, though, you still managed to take that second position and a third at the end of the night. So still a very decent points haul for that number 36 truck. Crandon will be coming on up next. We get set to lock out the championship. Where do you expect you'll find yourself in our final race?
I don't even know if I'll be able to make it. I work every other week, so I'm just kind of out here having fun, turning laps. But if I can make it work with my schedule, I'll be there, and hopefully we can, be in the top 3. But we're shooting for a top 5.
Of course, you look at the season as a whole then, as it's gone along. It's been a very short season at that, but it's been an exciting one. How's it been for the number 36 Legion machine so far?
I can't complain. Anytime you're out here, running relatively close with these guys, it's a good night. It's Josh is Mr. Pro 2, so just trying to get her dialed in and try to compete a little more with these guys.
Well, we'll hope that you'll be able to do that going into Crandon, or if potentially not next week, then definitely whenever you see it next on track at the Off-Road Championship. Congratulations on the second and the third place finishes tonight. I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Appreciate it. Just want to say thanks to Factory Sim Sport, Legion Speed Sports, T-Stone Enterprise, ZK Designs, Appliance Part Company, RepCPS.com, and you guys for putting on the broadcast. Can't wait to go watch it back, and the people that support this league. Thank you.
That was Christopher Plumley joining us up here in that second position on the podium. We'll move things on down to the driver that took a dominant race win in our first race tonight, but it ended up not being the sweep for Josh Edmondson, who will find himself finishing down in third. Evan, you're standing by with our final podium finisher.
He became the second multi-race winner of the season when he won the first feature of the night. We are trackside with Josh Edmondson. And Josh, congratulations. Let's talk about that first one first, because you seem to be on just as much as cruise control as anybody's been in a race all year.
Yeah, that was good to get that second win of the season. Obviously, the invert gave me the pull there. Our queue times were insanely close, so that was good to be able to get the P3 in the queue there that gave me the pull. So I was able to just run my own lines, run my own race, and get the W in that one. It was needed for me in the points.
And then the invert flip side puts you third on the grid for the second of those features, and you end up third at the end of this one. So it's kind of you and Connor fighting for this championship. He walks out of tonight with a P2 and a P1. You walk away with a P1 and a P3. What was the difference maker there in the second race?
Yeah, just I was kind of hanging back because I knew he was going to try and make a move on Plum. I think we had a little bit of pace there on him, and he was struggling to make the move. It's tough when everybody's so close in speed like this to make passes happen. Everybody's raced each other so much. We all know, what each other's going to do. Connor did get the move made, but it was, obviously going to the last lap, so didn't really have time to try and set something up. And I don't know if I would have been able to make it happen anyway. Like I said, we were just too close there. So, I mean, I'm happy with third, but yeah, Connor extends his points lead because of that. And then he also qualified better. So I think he gained maybe 4 or 5 points on me tonight, but next week's Crandon, and anything can happen off that land rush.
Hey, Crandon is so different to where we've been the last couple of weeks at Wild West and Wild Horse. Well, these last 2 races are pretty comparable to each other. There's nothing like at the big house. What strategy do you need to take into Crandon, knowing that you're fighting from behind, to try to swipe this one away from Connor?
Well, I think it's obviously getting a clean start is going to be huge there. So if I can qualify good, get off the start good, I think I can maybe get a win there and try to extend the points or get within the points there. But if Connor's right there in the top 2 or 3 with me, then obviously it won't be enough. So we'll see. I mean, it's I don't root for any bad luck for him, obviously my teammate, but it's that land rush, anything can happen. If he gets shuffled back and I can win it, then yeah, it'll be really tight.
We're looking forward to watching the exciting conclusion to this Pro 2 Championship battle in a week's time. But at least here tonight, Josh, with a race win and a podium, who do you want to say hi to?
Yeah, just you guys, shout out for doing the broadcast. Looking forward to watch this back. And then everybody on the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, Connor putting in the work here and testing and getting fast in these trucks. And then all our sponsors, Next Level Racing, Pimax VR, Apex Gaming PCs. I'm looking forward to next week.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell everybody. Appreciate you being on track, giving us something to watch, but as well appreciate, Josh, everything you do for the series here. Thanks for the time. Congratulations on a good result.
Thank you.
That is your race winner from feature race number 1 in the open class tonight, and a P3 to wrap this one up. Josh Edmondson will head to Crandon with an opportunity to fight for the championship against championship leader Connor Berry and Nolan. Again, the big story of the night was, I think, this battle went from a 3-horse race to a 2-horse race. A bad night for Keaton Swain and a big night for Connor Berry. Puts the 2 truck in the driver's seat.
And I think that's going to definitely mean big news for Connor Berry when we get set to roll into Crandon just 1 week from now. It'll be, I think, one of the most exciting races we've seen in a very long time in this championship, and this is going to go right down to the wire.
It is the 4th and final week of this Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship, and you are not going to want to miss this one. A race completely different to what we've seen over the course of the last couple weeks, and of course, the big story will be who makes it to the first turn off of that land rush start. The championship will be decided in 1 week's time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Chandler, Arizona. On behalf of our entire team at Racecraft TV for the Off-Road Pro 2 Championship and all of our sponsors, I want to thank you for tuning in. On behalf of your broadcast team tonight as well, for Joshua Lee downstairs, for Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to congratulate our 4 different feature race winners of the night. Kusin, Matag, Edmondson, and Barry all find victory lane and are 1 step closer on the road to a championship. But the titles will be decided next week on Wednesday, May the 24th, from iRacing's virtual Crandon International Off-Road Raceway. That race and every race of this Racecraft Off-Road Pro 2 Championship can be found exclusively here on Racecraft TV. Till next time, good night from Wild Horse Pass.